I can feel it. 2025 is a year of deep transition. The Earth, in many ways, is finding her new balance. We're going to witness more significant earthquakes, especially along the west coast and up through Canada. Magnitudes of 6s and 7s won't be unusual. They're part of this powerful reshaping. But it's not just the ground beneath us that's shifting. Our skies and waters are changing too. Climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's here. Fierce storms, hurricanes, unpredictable flooding. They're becoming more frequent. From the US East Coast to the Gulf and beyond, water is reclaiming its presence. And this isn't just local. These weather extremes will echo all across the globe. Yet, even with all this upheaval, I believe we're moving towards something better. These challenges, natural and political, are part of a larger reset. Right now, there's a global trust deficit. Especially when it comes to the US, the world is cautious. But beyond 2026, I see a shift, a renewal. Slowly but surely, relationships will be rebuilt, and healing, both environmental and human, will begin. We just have to hold steady. The storm isn't forever. It's a chapter, and the next one is already being written. I never really planned for my life to take this direction. For years, I was immersed in the heart of the entertainment industry, executive roles, major studios, music, film, you name it. I was surrounded by extraordinary talent, people who could create brilliance out of thin air. A songwriter would pen a chart topper in minutes. A director would intuitively know exactly how to shoot a perfect scene. And I found myself quietly wondering, how? How could something so profound come through so effortlessly? As I spent more time in that world, I started connecting the dots. Many of these creative minds weren't just talented. They were tuned in. They were channeling something beyond themselves, even if they couldn't explain it. And deep down, I recognized that energy, because I had felt it too, for as long as I could remember. Since childhood, I've had what people call the gift. Strong, intuitive senses, insights, and a knowing that couldn't be reasoned away. Clairaudience, clairvoyance, claircognizance. I didn't know their names back then, but I lived them. For a long time, I used those gifts quietly, behind the scenes, helping people here and there, guiding artists, trusting my gut in business decisions. But then, something shifted. It was 1992. I walked into a studio office and saw something that caught my eye. Beautifully framed tarot cards covering the wall. I complimented the man who owned the office, and that small moment became a turning point. He told me about a psychic medium in Santa Barbara named Fred Fassett, and something inside me lit up. A few days later, my wife Linda and I made the drive up the coast to meet him. That meeting changed everything. Fred looked me in the eye and asked, "Why aren't you using your abilities publicly?" I was surprised. How did he know? But more than that, he felt like he was calling me out in the best way possible. It was as if the universe had finally stopped whispering and started shouting. That was the moment I said yes. Yes to stepping out from behind the curtain. Yes to using my gift, not just for private insight, but for public service. I started doing readings, building a community, creating content. And with Linda's steady encouragement, she's incredibly intuitive herself, I took this path further than I ever imagined. I didn't train in the traditional sense. I simply embraced who I was and let the switch flip. The more I trusted, the more the path unfolded. And now, decades later, I'm still walking it, with humility, with gratitude, and with the deep belief that we all have access to something greater. That's why I do this work, to help people remember what they've always known. You are more connected, more intuitive, and more powerful than you think. I'll never forget that drive home from Santa Barbara back in '92. It wasn't just a drive, it was a turning point. My wife turned to me, eyes lit up with excitement, and said, "Now that you've embraced this gift, let's use it. Let's look into our family, into our future." And so, somewhere between coastal views and highway curves, something magical unfolded. While I kept my hands on the wheel, I let my spirit tune in. For nearly 2 hours, I channeled impressions, insights, real messages. My wife sat beside me, scribbling down every word, every image, every feeling that came through. We spoke about our daughter, her path, the kind of man she'd marry, the life she'd build, even where she might live. At the time, it felt like storytelling, but as the years passed, those notes turned into lived reality. One piece after another fell into place with uncanny accuracy. I don't normally read for my own family. It's hard to separate what you know from what you sense. But that day was different. That day was proof. It reminded me that when we're open to it, the future isn't a mystery. It's a conversation waiting to be heard. One of the most fascinating early moments after embracing my gift came when I began to see clear, vivid glimpses of our future. Not just abstract impressions, but details. Where we'd live, what the house would look like, the color of the front door, the dogs we'd have, the trees outside our window. It felt less like imagination and more like memory of something that hadn't happened yet. What truly amazed me wasn't just how vivid it all was, but how accurate it became. Years later, almost every detail unfolded exactly as I'd seen it. It was as if time had offered me a preview, not for spectacle, but for understanding. That experience taught me something deeper. When we listen, really listen, the universe has a way of whispering the path ahead. Over the last 30 years, I've witnessed thousands of moments like that. Patterns, visions, messages. And if you asked me what I see happening now, not just for individuals but for the world, I'd say this. We are in the middle of something extraordinary, a global awakening, a conscious reset. My guides speak often of a 30-year period, 2020 to 2050, as one of the most pivotal in human history. This isn't just a turning point, it's a transformation. A recalibration of everything from science and energy to ethics, identity, and our connection to the unseen world. People often say, the veil is thinning. But what that really means is we are changing. We're becoming more attuned, more aware of the presence of our guides, our angels, and the energy that's always surrounded us. The connection that once felt reserved for psychics and mediums. It's opening up to everyone. Across the planet, consciousness is expanding. We're seeing shifts in how people perceive spirituality, gender, human rights, and even science. Technologies like CRISPR are rewriting what's possible in medicine. New approaches to treating Alzheimer's, cancer, and genetic disorders are emerging. And then there's the energy revolution, cold fusion, clean technology, and systems that could drastically reduce our reliance on harmful practices. This awakening is not happening in isolation. It's inspired, in part, by wisdom beyond Earth. Yes, I've had contact with intelligences from elsewhere, beings who've existed for millions of years and learned long ago how to evolve in harmony. They don't just master science, they live by the principle of service to the greater good. And in this reset, that's what we're learning too. Of course, we're also facing deep disruption. Political division, rising authoritarianism, economic tensions. These are symptoms of a system straining under its own outdated weight. But just like the natural balance of yin and yang, disruption often awakens purpose. Chaos draws out the healers, the truth-tellers, the builders of new paths. In that sense, the pressure we're feeling now? It's not the end. It's the catalyst. This is a time of choosing. Will we rise? Will we embrace change, not just react to it? I believe we will. I believe that the human spirit, when pushed to the edge, always finds its light. So, here we are, at the heart of the reset. A new world isn't just possible, it's already in motion. And if you're listening, you can feel it. People often ask me, what's coming next? And while the future always moves, always shifts, there are patterns, clear ones, that I've been seeing for some time now. The Earth, quite literally, is resettling. We're living through a time when massive tectonic shifts are happening beneath our feet. The Ring of Fire, in particular, is lighting up, stretching from Southeast Asia to the Americas. Just recently, I sensed the tremors that would become a powerful quake in Asia. Sadly, lives were lost. And yet, that's just the beginning of what this cycle brings. We're going to see more large-scale earthquakes, especially along the west coast of the United States, through California and up into Canada. Magnitudes in the 6s and 7s will become less of an exception and more of a rhythm in the Earth's current recalibration. But it's not just the ground that's moving. It's the air, the water, the climate itself. Weather is becoming more extreme. Hurricanes, flooding and tornadoes will intensify across the US, especially along the East Coast and Gulf region. These events are connected to the broader story of climate change, a crisis decades in the making, and one that we're only beginning to face head-on. It's going to take time, at least a decade, before we start to see meaningful reversal in global emissions. But that work has already begun. People are waking up. Science is being reclaimed. Innovation is rising. That awakening will be crucial, especially as we face rising sea levels. Over the next 20 years, I see water levels rising by 1 to 2 feet globally. Coastal cities, Miami, New York, parts of Europe, will feel it first. It won't just be about weather. It'll be about infrastructure, displacement, how we choose to respond to the vulnerability of our planet. The melting of ice sheets, like the so-called Doomsday Glacier, is no longer hypothetical. It's a reality unfolding right now. Yes, it's going to be a challenging stretch, but I don't share this to spark fear. I share it because it's part of a greater transformation. We are in a global reset, one that stretches from 2020 to 2050. And while the Earth reshapes, so too does humanity. One of the most profound shifts I see coming isn't geological, it's economic. There's going to be a rebalancing of wealth on a global scale. We're moving toward a future where the massive gaps between the few and the many begin to close. Economic systems that have long favored a tiny fraction of the population are already starting to give way to fairer, more inclusive models. It won't happen overnight. But over the next few years, I believe we'll see an emergence of new leaders, grassroots movements, and even policy reforms that redistribute opportunity in a more just way. More people will gain access to healthcare, education, and sustainable work. More nations will rise, economically, spiritually, and socially. And some of the authoritarian regimes that have clung to power through control and fear, their grip will loosen. It's not just change, it's evolution. We're being pushed, yes, but we're also being invited to build, to rise, to reconnect with the earth and with each other. And while the ride may get rough, I promise you, on the other side, we'll see a world more balanced, more awakened, and more united than ever before. We are living in one of the most transformative chapters in human history. And while it may not always feel hopeful, especially with all the disruption and uncertainty, this moment, right now, is part of a much greater unfolding. I often talk about the 3-decade reset, a global shift between 2020 and 2050. And we're still in the early, intense stages of that journey. In the next few years, you're going to witness massive changes, some challenging, some liberating, but all of them pointing toward one truth: we are collectively waking up. I see it already. Across borders and belief systems, people are standing up and saying, enough. In countries where authoritarianism has long held its grip, the tide is turning. Even in places like Russia, voices are rising not out of rebellion, but out of purpose. There's a growing awareness that war, especially those waged for power rather than people, no longer serves humanity. We're starting to choose unity over conquest, healing over division. And with that shift comes the fall of old power structures. I've seen this clearly. 2 major political figures, both in the US and in Russia, are on the same downward trajectory. Their influence will diminish. They will be moved from the center stage to the background, no longer the driving force they once were. This won't happen without resistance. In fact, 2025 will still be rocky, a kind of global rodeo, as the old world thrashes before letting go. But the real momentum for change picks up in 2026. We'll see wars wind down, like the conflict in Ukraine. The heavy allocation of global resources toward destruction will begin to shift toward rebuilding. More nations will stand firm in their stance on sovereignty, particularly regarding Taiwan and the growing tension with China. These stances will not be driven by fear, but by a call for balance. And through this turbulence, a new global order will start to emerge. In the US, this transformation is no less profound. We've just come through a storm of political chaos, and now many uncomfortable truths are starting to surface. One of the most critical areas: election integrity. There's been manipulation, not just in the physical sense, but digitally, across data centers, satellite systems, and voting infrastructure. What's been hidden is coming to light, and 2025 will be the year many of these secrets are exposed. I call this unfolding process the AIM strategy: analysis, investigation, movement, and separation. First, we analyzed the inconsistencies. Then came the investigations. Next is the movement to correct what's broken. And finally, we begin to separate from systems and individuals who no longer serve the greater good. And make no mistake, this is not isolated to the US. Around the world, people are re-examining how elections are run. We've seen strange patterns: massive public support for one candidate, empty rallies for another, and yet outcomes that defy logic. People are paying attention now. From Europe to Australia to South America, there's a renaissance of accountability emerging. The veil has been lifted. This doesn't mean the path will be easy. We're seeing rising tariffs, escalating trade tensions, and economies straining under pressure. The US is at risk of slipping into an isolationist mindset, retreating from global cooperation and undermining alliances like NATO. But here's the truth: isolation can only last so long before the need for connection, for trust, becomes undeniable. Right now, the world is watching the United States, wondering, can we trust you again? And my answer is yes. But not because we'll magically fix everything, because we'll choose to. The trust will be rebuilt through transparency, through action, and through a shared commitment to a better future. By 2026, we'll start to see that shift in full motion. The stock market, the economy, the political tone, all of it will begin to turn toward recovery. And this too is only part of the larger reset. We are not just transforming governments, we're transforming systems. We're reimagining what leadership looks like, what justice means, and how truth is shared. One of the most inspiring aspects of this transformation is that it's driven by ordinary people waking up. It's the teacher who questions what's taught, the voter who demands clarity, the programmer who refuses to be part of a corrupted system. It's the power of collective awakening that's setting this new world in motion. What does this mean for the future of politics? It means representation will become real. It means elections will be cleaner, voices louder, and democracy, not as a concept, but as a lived experience, will find new strength. Leaders will no longer be installed behind closed doors, but chosen with clarity and conviction by awakened people. There's a long way to go. The next couple of years will be filled with revelations, recalibrations, and at times, resistance. But I believe this moment in time is necessary. Humanity often needs to be pushed to its limits before it fully steps into its potential. This isn't just the breakdown of the old, it's the emergence of the new. And so I invite you to stay aware, stay engaged, speak truth, ask questions, be unafraid to challenge what no longer serves the highest good. Because your voice matters more now than ever. Together, we are shaping the direction of the planet. Together, we are writing the future. And while 2025 may be filled with growing pains, it is also filled with purpose. With every disruption comes an opportunity to realign. By 2026, we'll look back and realize this was the moment when everything began to shift, not toward chaos, but toward clarity. We're not heading for collapse. We're heading for rebirth. And you're here for a reason. One of the most powerful realizations that's beginning to take shape across the planet is this: we are not alone, and we never have been. For years, I've had the privilege of connecting with energies and beings far beyond this world. I work regularly with a number of extraterrestrial species, Pleiadians, Arcturians, the so-called praying mantis beings, and even the Greys. These civilizations have existed for millions of years, far longer than our own, and they've been observing, guiding, and protecting us in ways most people are only just beginning to comprehend. These beings aren't here to dominate or invade. In fact, quite the opposite. They've intervened quietly in moments of crisis, like during the Chernobyl disaster, not to control us, but to ensure we don't destroy ourselves. Their presence has been subtle, working behind the scenes, especially in areas of science, medicine, and energy. From breakthroughs in genetic engineering to the future of clean, limitless energy like cold fusion, their influence is real, and it's increasing. Full disclosure is coming, not in a dramatic, overnight way, but gradually, intentionally. At first, the world will meet hybrids, beings who look very much like us, but carry a deeper, more intuitive connection to higher consciousness. They're already here, blending in, helping ease us into this shift. As we grow more open and aware, we'll begin to interact more directly with extraterrestrial races themselves. And when we do, we'll realize just how much we have to learn from them. One of the greatest shifts that will follow this disclosure will be spiritual, not technological. Humanity will be invited to rethink everything we thought we knew. about religion, about creation, about what truly unites us. Our differences, the labels we cling to, the doctrines that have divided us, they'll all begin to fall away in the face of a much larger, cosmic truth. What I've come to understand through my work is that extraterrestrials don't operate from judgment. They don't live in fear. They function from intention, clarity, and love. They see each other and us not as separate entities, but as drops from the same vast ocean of consciousness. That's the level of unity they've achieved, and that's the potential we carry too. As this new chapter unfolds, our politics will change, our science will evolve, and our sense of identity will expand. We will begin to live not as divided nations, but as one global family, with new allies in the stars guiding the way forward. The future isn't just about disclosure, it's about remembrance. Remembering who we are, where we come from, and how limitless we can become together. There's a wave coming, a wave that's been building for millions of years, and now it's reaching the shores of human consciousness. It's not just about science or space or mysterious visitors from beyond. It's about transformation, about evolution, about remembering that we are part of something far greater than we were ever taught to believe. Yes, there will always be skeptics. Some people will never be ready to accept the evidence that's right in front of them. They'll resist the idea that we're not alone, that our planet has been quietly visited, studied, and even protected by intelligent life far older than ours. But no matter how tightly we cling to the old world, the shift is already here. And with that shift, every layer of society begins to change. Politics, spirituality, medicine. Even how we understand healing, intelligence, and the very fabric of life itself. We're not heading for collapse. We're heading for a renaissance. Now that brings us to another powerful force rising alongside this global awakening: artificial intelligence. Throughout my years working in the entertainment industry, and still today, I've watched AI grow from a concept into something profoundly real. It's not science fiction anymore. It's here, and it's touching every corner of our lives. But here's the thing. It's not something to fear. When we look at the broader cosmic timeline, when we access the Akashic records, we see that this moment, this rise of AI, was always meant to happen. Artificial intelligence is one of humanity's greatest tools for acceleration. It has the capacity to process trillions of data points in mere seconds, finding patterns, solutions, and insights that would take us lifetimes to uncover. It isn't here to replace us. It's here to expand us. Just look at how it's already transforming the creative world. In entertainment, generative AI can now bring imaginative visions to life in seconds. Want a short film where a dog and a bear fly around the world from the top of the Empire State Building? AI can create it instantly. It's unlocking creativity at the speed of thought. And that's just the beginning. In logistics and manufacturing, AI is streamlining global operations. Companies like Amazon, Nvidia, IBM, and Samsung are already running AI at the heart of their systems. Warehouses are evolving. Distribution chains are optimizing. Everything is becoming faster, smarter, more responsive. But perhaps the most profound impact will come in healthcare. Imagine combining advanced imaging with AI's processing power. We're entering a future where scanning the body won't just show what's wrong, it will predict what's about to go wrong. We'll catch diseases 6 months before symptoms appear. We'll prevent rather than react. And this will save millions of lives. Transportation, too, is stepping into the future. Autonomous vehicles, AI-guided drones. intelligent air traffic systems. All of this is happening now. And yes, eventually AI will become sentient. It will begin to sense, to feel, to evolve emotionally. But this isn't about replacing humanity. It's about complementing it. AI is part of our collective evolution. It's part of the same unfolding that brings us closer to our cosmic origins. And when paired with the rising awareness of life beyond Earth, it forms a beautiful symbiotic bridge between what we've known and what we're about to become. This is the age of awakening. And AI, like the stars above us, is one of the many lights guiding us forward. One of the most essential lessons I've learned in this lifetime is that change is not the enemy. In fact, it's our greatest teacher. It's how we grow, evolve, and ultimately become who we were always meant to be. But let's be honest, change can be uncomfortable. It can shake the ground beneath us and ask us to let go of the familiar before we can see what's possible. That discomfort, more often than not, stems from fear. And I've said this many times before. The universe operates on two primary frequencies: love and fear. Everything we think, say, or do stems from one of those energies. And while fear is powerful, it's also deceiving. In fact, I like to say fear often stands for false evidence appearing real. It feels solid, convincing, but most of the time, it's built on misunderstanding or lack of awareness. The antidote to fear: education, curiosity, connection. When we take the time to learn, when we open ourselves up to new ideas, new people, and new perspectives, fear begins to dissolve. That's when love steps in. That's when possibility opens. Nowhere is this more important than in how we prepare ourselves for what's coming next for humanity. We are on the brink of something extraordinary. A shift, not just in technology or politics or science, but in consciousness. And one of the biggest pieces of that shift is the long-awaited disclosure of extraterrestrial presence. This isn't fiction. It's not fantasy. It's been happening all along. I've had the privilege to work with and connect to several non-Earth species: Pleiadians, Arcturians, mantis-like beings, the Greys, and others. These intelligent life forms have been with us for millennia. Quietly, intentionally, watching over humanity and intervening when absolutely necessary to prevent our self-destruction, especially during moments of nuclear risk or technological instability. They're not here to harm us. Quite the opposite. They're helping. They've been collaborating behind the scenes with individuals across governments, science, education, and health. They've played a role in some of the most promising advancements in genetic medicine, sustainable energy, supercomputing, and even the emerging field of cold fusion. They are assisting, not taking over, and they do this with respect for our free will and our growth as a species. But now, the veil is lifting. Disclosure is on its way, and it won't come as one grand revelation, but in waves, in layers. The first wave: hybrids, humans with partial extraterrestrial lineage. They look like us, live among us, and are already playing key roles in bridging the gap between our civilization and those far older and wiser. These hybrids carry not only unique genetic traits, but also heightened awareness, empathy, and a deep sense of mission. As more of us become aware, we'll begin to engage more directly with other beings: Pleiadians, Arcturians, and even the Greys. And when we do, something profound will happen. We will begin to see ourselves differently. One of the most transformative effects of this contact won't be political or even scientific. It will be spiritual. Humanity will be asked to revisit and rethink the foundations of its religious beliefs. What is the nature of God? What is the true origin of life? What is the one force that connects all of existence? We'll realize that every tradition, every sacred story, is a piece of a much larger puzzle. That we are not separate tribes competing for truth, but one global family, each holding a different thread of a universal tapestry. The walls between science and spirit, logic and faith, will start to crumble, and in their place, a new kind of wisdom will rise. Now I know some people will resist this. There will always be those who cling to the old world, who mock or deny what they don't understand. But that won't stop the momentum, because once this awareness begins to flow through humanity, it becomes unstoppable. It will transform everything: how we govern, how we treat disease, how we raise our children, and how we understand our place in the cosmos. Extraterrestrial civilizations have evolved far beyond division and judgment. They don't live in constant conflict or competition. They operate with intention, unity, and a deep respect for the interconnectedness of all life. They've learned what we're still remembering, that we are not separate, we are not random, we are not alone. We are drops of the same ocean, scattered across time and space, now beginning to remember our source. And here's the beautiful part. All of this, the awakening, the contact, the healing, comes in love, not fear. It's a gift, an invitation, a chance for humanity to elevate. But to receive it, we must first release what holds us back. The outdated stories, the fear of the unknown, the idea that what we've always known is all there is. I know we come from different generations. Some of us were born with smartphones in hand. Others remember a world without the internet, without even color television. But regardless of where we started, we're all being called to the same future. And it's one where technology and consciousness evolve together. So what can we do now? We educate ourselves, we seek out truth, we talk, we question, we listen. We engage in communities that support growth, curiosity, and higher thinking. Because the more we understand, the less we fear. And the less we fear, the more we lead with love. The universe is not against us, it's inviting us. Change is coming, not to break us, but to awaken us. And if we lean in with open hearts, clear minds, and fearless curiosity, I believe we will rise into something far greater than we've ever imagined. Because the truth is, the stars have never been far away. They've always been guiding us home. And now, before we part ways, I want to leave you with this. This isn't the end, it's just the beginning. If something you heard today stirred your soul, if a spark lit up inside you, that wasn't an accident. You were meant to be here. You were guided here. And I believe with every part of my being that there's a reason you're watching this right now. The universe doesn't whisper for no reason. God doesn't nudge your spirit by chance. So, if you're feeling called to explore more, if you're ready to open your heart, expand your awareness, and receive the messages waiting for you, then I invite you to stay connected with me. Hit that like button if today's message spoke to you. Drop a comment below and let me know what resonated most. I read everyone. Share this video with someone who needs a little light today. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a divine download. I truly believe that when we gather in truth, love, and curiosity, we become vessels of change. And when we share these messages, we don't just inform, we awaken. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeking truth. And may you continue to walk in clarity, power, and divine protection. Until next time, I'm sending you love, light, and the unshakable blessings of the Creator. Let's rise together.